Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode whisks us away to a remote area called Chimney Rock Road in southwest Alberta, Canada. The terrain is a hilly country that lies at about 5,000 feet in elevation. The common trees in the area are Gambel Oak, Juniper, and Pinon Pine, with the underbrush of rabbitbrush, sage, and bitterbrush scattered between. The wildlife in the area includes moose, elk, deer, and woodland caribou. The dominant predators in this area include cougars, gray wolves, lynx, bobcats, coyotes, and black and brown bears. It is in this wild and remote setting in which our episode takes place today. Fraser was an avid outdoorsman, and one of his favorite activities was to go hunting. On October 27, 2013, he was heading off to fill his black bear tag. During the past application period, he had entered a drawing for the tag for a hunt near the Chain Lakes in southwest Alberta, Canada, and was awarded a tag. He was excited to go on this bear hunt and had spent several weeks organizing his gear, planning locations, and being giddy about spending time outdoors. Before departure, he ran through his equipment as a final check. He made sure he had his rifle with ammunition, his permit for harvesting a black bear, as well as his hunting knife, but didn't take bear spray. Black bears are common near the Chain Lakes area. In fact, Fraser treated the filling of his bear tag as a day hunt. He had a small amount of necessary hunting equipment with him, and that was it. He anticipated finding a bear, shooting it, and packing it out all within a few days at most. As Fraser scouted around, he looked for bear sign and tracks. The dense brush could have hidden an elephant, but a trained and experienced hunter knows what sign a bear will leave. He methodically searched the ground and glassed any open space he came across for the first part of the day. It didn't take long for Graham to find a nice big black bear. It was only about 100 yards away and was very large and had a dark coat. It looked like a perfect trophy for him, and he lowered his rifle and peered through his sights, focusing on a lethal shot. He squeezed the trigger, and the rifle clapped as the bullet sped to its mark. The shot echoed off the surrounding hillside as the bear, clearly wounded, hobbled into the nearby brush and disappeared. Graham knew that at this close range, and with his experience, he had definitely hit the bear in a vital and deadly spot. It would only be a short matter of time before the wound his bullet opened up in the bear's chest would lead to its death. Most bear hunters would give a bear they didn't see collapse and die at least a few hours, if not the better part of a full day, before they would start tracking the animal. Graham was an experienced bear hunter, and decided his shot looked like it struck the bear in a deadly place on its body, so he only waited about 20 minutes before picking up the bear's blood trail. A little information about bear physiology is in order to understand the predicament in which Graham is about to find himself. Recent studies have indicated that bears have smaller blood cells and more of them than human beings. This trait helps their blood continually circulate during hibernation without developing thromboses or blood clots. It also causes bears to lose blood when injured, which serves as a means to clean wounds by removing infectious materials potentially. When calculating human blood volume, there is a rough formula used, and it multiplies the person's weight in kilograms by 70 milliliters for males and 65 milliliters for females. Now, don't get ahead of me. I know bears and humans are completely different, but to develop a baseline of how much blood volume a bear has, we will use this formula. Let's say a sow brown bear has a mass of 180 kilograms. Using the above formula, we would have the following calculation: 180 kilograms multiplied by 65 milliliters, which would give us 11.7 liters of blood volume. That is equivalent to about 3 gallons of blood for what is considered a small sow bear. This is important to understand because when an animal has thinner blood and a higher volume, the blood on its blood trail may appear to be plentiful and fatal. But due to these unique characteristics of bear blood, could easily mislead any hunter into pursuing a wounded animal thought to be dying when it is merely wounded. This is why bears are known to spring back to life on hunters who couldn't possibly understand the science behind a bear's blood and its characteristics. As a further example, most hunters are familiar with hunting deer and tracking their blood trails. A 200-pound buck, using this same formula, would have this equation representing its blood volume, 91 kilograms multiplied by 70 milliliters yielding 6.4 liters of blood volume. Anyone who has trailed a wounded deer will tell you that any wounds they sustain will quickly clot and stop bleeding. This is due to the fact that they have 10 times the amount of potassium, the vitamin most involved in blood clotting, held in the fat reserves around their bodies. They also have smaller blood cells that are about half the size of human blood cells. This is important because any animal that has smaller blood cells can circulate its blood quicker, allowing for higher rates of exertion. A hunter who is used to seeing deer blood on a blood trail may follow a bear blood trail with similar blood amounts, thinking the bear's wound is fatal, but given the difference in blood volume and chemical behavior may be sorely mistaken. As Graham followed the bear's blood trail, it meandered through brush and bush for a short distance. Graham had no way of knowing that the bear had followed a circuitous path and circled around to lay over its own blood trail, to lay in ambush of its pursuer. As soon as Graham emerged into the ambush location, the brown bear sow attacked him. Graham was so surprised by the ambush that he didn't have time to fire his rifle as the bear bore down on him. He was following what he thought was a black bear, but had mistakenly wounded a sow grizzly. This only added to the confusion, limiting his response to the ambush. The enraged sow quickly closed the short distance between herself and the hunter, knocking him onto his back. Once the bear was on top of him, Graham stuck his left arm out to keep her away from his head. She bit onto it and crushed it as she twisted her head while biting. She continued with her attack and bit him several more times on the arms and on any part of Graham's body that came close to her mouth. Graham had so little time to react, but the one reaction he managed to do was to pull out his hunting knife with his right hand. As the sow bit onto his left wrist again, he quickly plunged his sharpened hunting knife into her neck, opening up a deep gash a few inches wide. Blood sprayed from the fatal wound he inflicted on her neck, and she shrank back in submission to the fatal stab wound. In only a few seconds, the sow's teeth had torn Graham's flesh and opened up wounds that seeped blood all over his body. As Graham's knife wound took its fatal toll on her life, the sow crumpled onto the ground, in death's repose. Graham wasted no time in removing himself from the proximity of the bear. He quickly hiked back toward his truck to seek medical assistance for himself as his blood dripped onto the snow. As soon as he arrived at his truck, he tossed his gear inside and started up the vehicle. Through a snowstorm, he drove several hours to the nearest town he was familiar with called Nanton. Graham pulled up to the Flying J gas station and walked inside. Graham was covered with blood and bite wounds from head to toe, and the attendees of the gas station stared at him, bewildered by his condition. Graham stuttered that he was trying to drive to the nearest hospital, while the cashier, Bev Sherritt, explained that the nearest hospital was High River or Claresholm. The gas station maintenance worker, Wayne, assisted Graham with his wounds and comforted him. As the adrenaline that had powered him the last several hours faded, Graham began to enter a state of shock. Bystanders offered to drive him to the hospital in their rigs, but the group decided the ambulance would be the best option. They immediately called 911 and requested an ambulance to their location and attempted to stop his wounds from bleeding. The ambulance showed up within a few minutes and quickly headed to the South Campus Hospital in Calgary. Graham's wounds were treated and sutured by the medical staff there, but I could find no source indicating how many wounds he suffered, or how many sutures, staples, or stitches he received. He was released from the hospital shortly after being stabilized to heal at home. When asked about the impacts of the attack, Graham indicated he just wanted to forget the entire thing. Alberta Fish and Game launched their own investigation into the attack on Graham and the death of the protected grizzly. Graham had a tag for a black bear but mistakenly shot a brown bear. This is a violation of game laws, and he could have faced a fine of up to $100,000 and up to 2 years in jail. Upon arriving at the scene of the attack, officials found the carcass of a sow bear weighing more than 300 pounds, apparently dead from the neck wound on Wednesday, October 30th. Brendan Cox, the spokesman for the Solicitor General Ministry, which oversees the Alberta Fish and Wildlife Officers, encouraged people to pack bear spray when traveling into known grizzly bear territory. Cox continued by stating that grizzlies are powerful animals, and it is good to hear Graham was not injured more seriously than he was, or killed. Authorities estimate that there are about 691 grizzlies in the province, and there have been 9 brown bear attacks in the province, with 2 of them ending in human fatalities. In the year 2020 alone, there were 4 brown bear attacks leading to 1 human fatality. Given the plot twists in this episode, I am left with a few questions for you. In the Alberta Fish and Game investigation, they cited that the grizzly sow died from Graham's stab to her throat, but don't mention any wound from his hunting rifle. Do you think the knife wound was the only wound that led to her death? Do you think it is possible that Graham initially wounded a black bear, then was ambushed by the grizzly sow while tracking the wounded black bear's blood trail? Do you think that bear spray would have changed the outcome of this attack? Are you surprised to learn that some bear attacks occur too quickly for a firearm to be used to defend yourself? Are you amazed at how tough Graham had to be in order to save his own life? I will be glad to read and respond to your posts, so please post your thoughts in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country. I would like to thank our Patreons: Jill Noeski, Barry G. Logger, Andre Hines, Stephen Brule, Katrina Purifoy, Jenny Underwood, Patricia Ann Haney, Robbie Wade, Roger McKee, Julie Kimberly Bean, Mary Bradford, Guntucky, Rasmus L.A., One for Deaking, Paul Wincoop, David Veda Jr., Eleanor Hardy, Patricia Hermanowski Toussaint, Angela Hammett, Marvin Alexander, Pam Stevens, Lulu 0000 Splash, Log, Trevor Hannon, Jesse J. Juris, Janelle Holly, Omar DeLeon, CJ, Avant, Kathy Ashuri, Diane Collier, Sandy Nielsen, Justin Land, Stephen Earl Smith, Stephen McLaughlin, AJ Miller, Homa Masters, Ricky Helms, David Atkins, Shoulders Repeat, Gerald Purcell, Dan Kemp, CC, NC, Alan LaFramboise, Regina Gilreath Ballard, Sheldon Lewis, Sheila Baker, Carl Childers, Dion Lynch, Debbie Hannanen, HTD, 4Life Biotoxic Beast, Gary Irick, Seal Rose, Victor Senkyu, Abhishek Bunia, Tracy Green, Young Games 34 _ Nina Allison, Heather Lee, Duran Terrell, Matt Mochi, Connor Lavin, Stephen Wilkinson, Werner Voss, L.A. Justin Curry, Susan Holt Butterfield, Sebastian Keelak, Brandon Wizard Wood, Nicole N. Angel Barnhill, Joey Pinter, Mauro Padano Boubry, TJ Schools, Katie V. Wright, Gary Highland, Cody Love, Katsy Murphy Andrews, Matt Bagney, Lindy Dawn, Alejandro Figueroa, Ian Romalor, Darcio Pacifico, Rose H. Lori McKay, Melissa Gottlieb, Megan Trend, Nathan P. Dina White, Cole Rodriguez, Aurora, April Donovan, Ryan Cernicki, Chris Marler, Wayne Washington, Fluffy Feet, Cheyenne, Greg Schaefer, April Donovan, and Drone Adventures. Your support means the world to me.